she yelled. Twice. Me? I just watched. You could already feel it cracking. The second time, her hand slapped steel. It echoed through silver pines like a dropped gavel. The red hat fell. No one picked it up. Malcolm Dorsey didn't blink, didn't turn, didn't move. 2 hands behind his back, 1 foot slightly behind the other. He was counting, positions, angles, witnesses. The garage door stayed shut. The sign said, "Private studio, no entry." She kept shouting anyway. Sprinklers hit her ankles. No one shut them off. He looked across the street. 3 neighbors watched. Nobody spoke. Checkmate had already begun. Quietly. He hadn't stepped into the studio in weeks, not since the first letter came. It was cooler inside than he remembered. Dust floated slow in the sunlight, quiet like breath. A white tarp had slipped halfway off the back wall, revealing the old sign underneath. Dorsey Forge, since 1971. Paint faded, corners curled, still there. Malcolm didn't touch it. He just looked, the same way his father used to, after a long day of shaping steel too stubborn to bend. That man didn't raise his voice, but every nail in this place had been driven by a purpose. 1 photo still hung where he left it. A black and white frame taped to the far beam. His mother smiling, his father's hand on his shoulder. Malcolm, maybe 16, half turned to camera, holding a wrench too big for his grip. He walked over, wiped the glass, then tapped the workbench 3 times. Software solid, remembered. He opened the top drawer, sifted through gauze, rusted nails, a folded permit yellowing at the edges. Further down, a pair of gloves, worn leather, thick-stitched. His father's initials still scratched inside. He picked them up, paused, then put them back. Nothing in here was for show. Everything meant something. When she walked onto the lawn last month, clipboard in hand, shoes too clean for real work, Malcolm didn't say a word, just watched her note the siding, the slope of the shed, the crack in the driveway. She didn't see the forge, she saw square footage. So, the next morning, he drove down to the courthouse, pulled the plat map from 1986. Not the digital one, the original ink on vellum file, marked, signed, pre-HOA. The garage, grandfathered, the forge, designated historical utility structure since June 12, 1971. He didn't frame the paper, he locked it in the safe. That same week, he called the city engineer, confirmed pipe clearance, utility zoning, access codes. He wasn't planning a fight, he was preparing to end one, because it wasn't just metal in there. It was the last place his father touched with both hands. The last place someone said his name, and meant it. That kind of thing. You don't let anyone repaint, and definitely not someone who thinks authority comes with a logo on a vest. It started with a sticker, orange, glossy, centered perfectly on the side door of the forge. Malcolm saw it when he stepped out, wiping grease off his hands with an old rag. The paper looked official, HOA logo printed sharp, border framed in bold. Pending structure review. He didn't touch it, just stared, then reached into his pocket. Phone, no unlock, no hesitation. 1 click. The shutter snapped as the woman stepped back from the door, clipboard still raised like a badge. She hadn't knocked, just walked in like she was entitled to the oxygen. Pressed shirt, red vest. Pen looped to her chest like a weapon. Hair pulled tight, not a strand out of place. The kind of person who never missed a line on a form, but wouldn't recognize heritage if it was welded to the ground. She flipped a page, jotted something, turned. "Good morning," she said, voice smooth, smile rehearsed. "We're just making sure every backyard structure complies with updated HOA visibility codes." She didn't wait for a reply. Malcolm didn't give one. She moved past him, measured steps down the drive. Her heels clicked against concrete like punctuation marks. "Don't worry," she added, glancing over her shoulder. "No violation yet, just a review." That "yet" hung in the air, dry, deliberate. Malcolm looked back at the sticker, took a second photo, zoomed in. Because reviews become warnings, warnings become violations, and violations become leverage. She was building a case, line by line, form by form. He folded the rag, hung it back on the hook, didn't say a word. "We just want the neighborhood to look consistent, Mr. Dorsey," she called, halfway to her car. "Hope you understand." He didn't answer, but he heard it. Consistent. That wasn't law, that was taste. And in Silver Pines, taste had a history. A week later, a flyer showed up on the bulletin board by the mailboxes, half covered by recycling guidelines and dog park rules. New HOA enforcement policy, July update, digital signature, clean font, and one italic line beneath, interim president C. Wexler, no face, no intro. But the red border matched the sticker. And 3 houses down, someone whispered, "Is that the new one? Clipboard lady?" Nobody replied, yet. Some people get away with too much, just because they sound official. You see it, you feel it, but part of you still hesitates, wondering if speaking up is worth the mess. If this story struck a chord, you'll want to stay. Subscribe now for stories that don't shout, but still hit back. Carolyn moved fast, too fast. The kind of fast that only comes from believing you've already won. 3 days after the sticker, a laminated printout showed up, taped to Malcolm's front gate. Community asset conversion proposal, color-coded, labeled, with his backyard marked in green. Future shared space, subject to approval. Stamped with the new HOA logo, signed C. Wexler. Malcolm didn't touch it, he just took a photo. Then another, zoomed in on the timestamp at the bottom corner. That afternoon, he received an email. Not directly, a neighbor forwarded it by mistake. It was meant for the board. Subject line, next phase, Dorsey Lot Optics. Attached, a Google Maps screenshot. 3 notes in red, land use ambiguity, lack of permit signage, and potential for beautification. Malcolm didn't reply. He renamed the file Chronological Archive 4.zip. He opened his father's old desk. Inside, a leather folder marked Variance Approval, 2001. Inside that, signatures, permits, city stamps. Everything Carolyn thought no one had. He didn't call anyone, didn't knock on doors. He just opened a shared drive with his father's former attorney, dropped in files, each labeled with the exact hour, exact tone, exact law misinterpreted. That night, another HOA thread came in. Subject, studio conversion planning. One resident, Mrs. Dana Healy, 82, hit reply all instead of just reply. "I thought this was Malcolm's father's shop. Didn't he get that approved in 2001? No one answered. The thread went quiet. Malcolm saved the email. Converted to plain .txt, no edits, just in case. The next morning, the old wooden mailbox in front of his studio had something new. A red strip of tape slapped across the top flap. A second printout, folded and stapled to itself. Another notice. Malcolm didn't rip it down. He stood there a moment, turned on the handheld polisher, and without a word, cleaned off one letter on the old faded paint. D-O-R-S-E-Y. Then he left it, still taped, still legal, but shining now like a warning. This wasn't delay, it was construction, of something tighter than anger, sharper than revenge. The first trap was set, and she'd stepped into it thinking it was hers. At 10:03 a.m., Carolyn posted in the neighborhood group, "We will cut the locks tomorrow to restore shared space access. HOA policy allows it." 2 likes, 1 heart, no replies. At 10:07 a.m., a new thread appeared from Malcolm Dorsey. Subject, historic asset verification, Dorsey Lot. The email was short, no salutation, no accusations, just one line, "For the record, attached, no opinion." Underneath, a PDF, scan of the 2001 variance approval, signed, stamped, filed by a previous HOA president, one who still lived 2 houses down. Attached again, a zoning map, marked by hand in faded ink. Approved workshop, Dorsey Forge, dated, initialed. By 10:13, 7 replies had come in. Not defending, not attacking, just curious, quiet. Didn't know this was already approved. I remember the old man building that. What else have we zoned? At 10:21, Mr. Daniels finally spoke, the man who hadn't commented in months. I remember seeing this form. His father showed me the permit before the ground broke. No one replied, but everyone read it. Carolyn didn't respond, not on email, not in the group. But at 11:04, she called the police. 12 minutes later, a patrol car idled near the curb. Neighbors began to drift out, not close, just near enough to witness. Carolyn pointed, at the garage, at the locks, at the camera above the door. The officer didn't move, just nodded, then asked one thing: is the structure private or public per the original zoning? Carolyn hesitated, then said too much. Doesn't matter. HOA overrides when structures violate shared aesthetic. He raised a brow. Asked for documentation. She didn't have it. The live stream pinged live. Ring cam footage. Muted. Crisp. Malcolm didn't appear in frame. Just the porch. Just the badge. Just her voice. Slightly too loud. The HOA logo lingered in the top corner of the video. It auto-sent to every email on file. Unsubscribe count, 0. Open rate, 91%. Inside his studio, Malcolm folded the gloves he hadn't worn, placed them on a clean bench, looked once at the old permit, then backed it up twice. One cloud, one drive. He didn't need to prove anything. He just needed her to insist. Publicly, aggressively, stupidly. The second trap had worked. The third was already triggered. And all he had done was reply. At the exact right time, Carolyn stepped forward, face red, voice steady. I'm requesting access to the structure per HOA authorization, community property rights. It's in writing. She waved the red folder, crisp, overstuffed. Inside, printed emails, highlighted minutes, a signed document from last week's meeting. She pointed at it. See? Approved by majority. I signed as acting president. The officer scanned the page, took his time, then looked up. You signed this? Yes. He flipped to the last line. No timestamp, just a date. Then he turned to Malcolm. Malcolm stepped forward, didn't speak, didn't blink. He handed over a document. Same layout, same format. Except this one had a timestamp. Dated 2 months prior, signed by the same HOA before the new elections. The officer read silently, paused at one line. Owner declines shared access. HOA acknowledged, no further action. Initialed, stamped. Carolyn's name, not on it. He looked back at her. You weren't president when this was filed? She froze, then deflected. The board changed. Policies evolve. Malcolm didn't respond. He simply pulled out his phone, tapped once. A recording played, tinny but clear. A woman's voice, hers. Malcolm's workshop? That's his. We can't touch that without rewriting the whole charter. Laughter in the background, then silence. One of the neighbors turned, frowned. That's you, right? Carolyn said nothing. The officer pressed his lips, body cam still blinking. He didn't move, didn't nod. But he didn't help her either. The red folder shook in her hands. Pages slightly bent now. The paper armor was peeling. 3 neighbors backed away. One shook his head. Another muttered, she played herself. Carolyn didn't leave, but she didn't speak again. Malcolm stayed still. No victory smile, just stillness, measured, clean. He remembered what his father once said. You don't need to argue truth. You just keep it close. When the lie walks too far, it'll trip over it. Now the lie had tripped, on paper, in audio, in front of every witness that once clapped for her. And all he had done was let her keep talking, let her believe she was untouchable, let her forget she'd been recorded. The 4th strike, paper she once signed, now turned. The 5th, her own voice, catching up to her. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was judgment, and judgment doesn't need to shout. 14 days later, he came back. Same boots, same walk, no announcement, just the quiet return of someone who never really left. The neighborhood BBQ was in full swing. Kids with paper plates, grills smoking, chatter floating like ash. But no music came from the red brick house across the lawn. Malcolm stepped through the grass, past the table of lemonade, past the heads that turned but said nothing. He carried the torch cutter in one hand, The other rested behind his back. He paused at the garage door, typed in the code, the same code from before. It clicked. He swung it open, slow, controlled. Inside, dust, silence, and the glint of chrome. The Lexus was still there, covered in fine grit, tires low. Carolyn stepped out from the side yard. No HOA badge, no clipboard, just stained khakis and a hoodie too warm for July. She didn't speak, just gripped the steering wheel and started to back the car out. It sputtered, then caught, then moved. No one clapped, no one stopped her. Her hat was gone, lying somewhere in the grass. No one picked it up. Malcolm turned back into the workshop, hung the goggle strap, wiped the dust from his father's welding gloves. He placed them gently on the bench, then paused, lifted the wooden sign, hung it on the door. Built in 1987, by hand, for family use only. The crowd behind him was still. One man whispered, "He's fixing it," like nothing ever happened. But it wasn't for them. He flicked the torch, flame hummed to life, cool, clean, controlled. Outside, the sprinkler clicked on. Just once. Water hissed behind Carolyn's heels as she walked away. The security camera rotated one last time, caught her frame leaving the shot. No one followed. Malcolm adjusted the level on his workbench, tapped it twice, then stood there, not triumphant, not bitter, just centered, as if balance had been returned, not by winning, but by never letting it be taken. Not everyone fights to win. Some just make sure no one rewrites what they built.